15 million merits begins with the presence of a man named Bing Madsen. Bing was lying in a small room surrounded by screens. The screen displays a well-visualized wake-up alarm, starting from the sunrise and the rooster crowing. Not long after, Bing got up from his bed. In front of him was an avatar that looked like himself, as if welcoming him from the bed and carrying out all his activities. It seems that everything is done sophisticatedly with various touch screens, even just to help him brush his teeth. The screen shows a series of numbers with a total value of 15,152,584. Apparently, living in a world with advanced technology, Bing has to use digital currency to carry out all its activities, such as eating, changing avatars, or skipping ads that can appear anywhere to carry out activities. This digital currency is called merits. Each person's number of merits varies depending on how often the individual gets the merits. 15 million merits is the nominal digital money currently owned by Bing. The scene then shows Bing being in an elevator with several people. Apparently, he and the people in the elevator are heading to a stationary bicycle sports venue, where on each stationary bike, there is an entertainment screen consisting of various kinds of entertainment that can be selected by the users. Bing rides the stationary bike to earn merits because the bike is an energy source. The longer someone pedals a stationary bike, the more rewards they get. Users can choose from several available entertainment options when riding a stationary bike. Bing chose the entertainment option where he could see his avatar cycling down the street. In the stationary bike room, Bing is not alone, but several other people do the same activities as him. It seemed that the person next to Bing was the one who often spoke harshly to the workers on the stationary bicycles. Large workers are considered second-class people who are often despised by other residents and even become the subject of ridicule in on-screen games. The man beside Bing often insulted the big worker wearing the yellow uniform. After cycling, Bing then went to a dining room. He bought an apple to eat. However, when he was about to take the apple from the vending machine, it seemed that the machine was broken. Luckily, he was helped by a woman who told him a trick for food stuck in the vending machine. After eating, Bing continued cycling to earn some merits before finally returning to the room full of screens. Bing seems to be playing a video game. In the middle of the game, suddenly, an advertisement appears. The ad featured a talent search event called Hot Shot, which promises rewards for its participants. Bing chose to skip the ad, which caused some of its merits to be reduced. It turned out that it wasn't just there. The screen in his room showed a follow-up ad showing an adult model. Bing, who looks desperate, then closes his eyes, causes the ad to pause, and issues a warning for him to open his eyes and oblige him to watch the ad to the end. The next day, still with the same routine, Bing woke up and prepared to head to the stationary bike room. On the way up the elevator to the stationary bike room, a woman who seemed to have caught Bing's attention entered. She had long black hair. Arriving at the stationary bike, Bing went back to his day. When he was in the toilet, he heard a woman singing from behind the toilet cubicle. It turned out that she was someone he had seen in the elevator earlier. Bing then ventured to get acquainted with the woman when they were together in the dining room. It turned out that the woman was named Abby Khan. Abby is a new resident there who just turned 21 last week. Bing, who heard Abby singing in the toilet the other day, praised Abby for her singing and suggested that she participate in the Hot Shot program. But unfortunately, taking part in the Hot Shot event takes 12 million merits, and Abby doesn't have that kind of money. Bing tells Abby that he is willing to give his merits to her. Abby, who was confused about this, asked him where his 15 million merits came from. Bing then said that his merits resulted from the gift after his brother died. In other words, he got the merits inheritance. However, Abby did not immediately believe it. But with Bing's persistence in persuading Abby, she finally wants to participate in the Hot Shot event. The scene moved back to Bing's room. Bing intends to buy a Hot Shot entrance ticket worth 15 million merits, which is almost all of his merits. Bing, who intended to give the ticket to Abby, immediately bought it and gave it as a gift to her. He has 8,000 merits left after purchasing the Hot Shot ticket. In a different room, Abby was also lying on her bed and was surprised by the virtual gift of Hot Shot tickets from Bing. The next day, Abby was accompanied by Bing to the place where the Hot Shot event was held. She looks very nervous in the elevator. Bing, who saw this, tried to calm her down. Abby smiled and gave an origami in the shape of a penguin. The origami was so flat that Bing could store it in his trouser pocket. When they were in the hot spot room, they were greeted by a receptionist who asked for their identity and data verification. Bing comes to accompany Abby as a companion, then gets a semi-permanent tattoo stamp on his hand. They met many other participants practicing their vocals and dance moves which had gathered together in the not-so-big room. Moments after they entered the room, Abby was called by one of the organizers for the jury to do a preview. Abby's summons drew protests from a woman with gray hair. She said that the organizers were unfair because she had been there for a week, but had not yet been summoned by the jury. Abby, who had just arrived, was immediately called for a preview. The organizer ignored the woman's protests and called Abby to come on stage. Meanwhile, in another room, one of the committee members gave Abby a drink, and the committee said that she had to drink it so she wouldn't feel nervous and be more relaxed. After downing the drink, Abby was asked to immediately go to the stage. On stage, Abby faced 3 judges named Hope, Charity, and Wraith. In addition to the 3 judges, thousands of virtual spectators were present in the form of avatars cheering for the contestants. One of the judges named Wraith made inappropriate comments to Abby. However, another judge named Charity prevented other comments and asked Abby to start singing immediately. Abby began to sing beautifully, and the audience enjoyed her singing. Hope suddenly stops Abby's singing and says she has a fantastic voice. Abby, who heard about this, smiled happily at his good response. Whereas previously, Abby avoided Hot Shot for fear of getting bad comments from the jury. But it doesn't stop there. Hope then continues that Abby's voice is indeed good, but it's not enough if she only relies on her singing ability. The judges thought that Abby would be more suitable if she were in Wraith's erotic channel called Wraith Babes. Abby, who was surprised by this, said that was not what she wanted. The judges explained and argued that Abby had a beautiful face and was very suitable when taking the offer from Wraith. The judges also tried to persuade her to join the erotic channel and promised to make her a star. Hearing that, Abby is no longer haunted by the need to ride a bicycle for the rest of her life anymore. But on the other hand, Bing was angry with the jury's request. He doesn't want Abby to appear on erotic channels. Bing tried to come to the center of the stage to prevent Abby from making her decision. But before he reached the center of the stage, the organizers immediately stopped him and dragged him to another place. Abby, who was still confused, with the audience's encouragement, who kept shouting her name and encouraging her to accept the jury's offer, she finally agreed to become a star on the erotic channel. Elsewhere, Bing is disappointed with Abby's decision but can't do much. He began to see Abby on every advertising channel. At one point, he was lying in his room and faced with an advertisement featuring Abby as the star. At first, Bing intended to skip the ad, but it turns out that the merits it has are not enough to get past the ad. Finally, Bing couldn't take it anymore and started cracking the screen in his room, which was showing Abby in an erotic channel commercial. After his outburst, Bing was apparently up to something. He started to save his merits and worked for a long time. He no longer buys food from the vending machine but instead takes other people's leftovers. At one time, Bing was practicing dancing in his room until his merits reached 15 million at some point. He used the 15 million merits to buy tickets for Hot Shot participants. Bing was back in the middle of the potential contestants who were practicing. Again, luck was on his side. No need to wait long, an organizer called him for a preview. Still, at the same stage as when he accompanied Abby, Bing was asked to introduce himself in front of the camera. Bing stated that he is an entertainer. Before he went onto the stage, a woman asked him to drink the same drink as Abby. However, Bing stated that he had already drunk it, even though the drink was Abby's, which he kept. A few moments later, Bing came to the center of the stage with 3 judges in front of him and stated that his specialty is entertainment. After being invited by the jury, Bing danced to the song's rhythm. The virtual audience seemed impressed and enjoyed the dance performed by Bing. However, Bing unexpectedly took out the broken glass he got from the broken screen in one of the rooms in his room. Turns out he hid the broken screen behind his pants. Bing threatened to end his life by stabbing him in the neck if someone stopped him from speaking. Charity and Hope then allowed him to speak, and this is where Bing began to explain and disagree with the current system. He said that people live in falsehood and no longer live humanely. During this time, they live in a fake where they are manipulated to ride a bicycle to survive and spend their merits decorating avatars and other unreal things. He also protested against discrimination against overweight people who are poorly treated by society. And finally, he protested the jury's actions that took the only thing he thought was real in his life, namely Abby. From the outburst of Bing's anger, Hope unexpectedly stated that Bing's statement was the most sincere expression he had ever heard on stage since Hot Shot aired. Hope's statement then spurred cheers from the virtual audience who agreed with him. Hope continued that he liked the concept of Bing's thinking that revealed the truth even though it was difficult to accept, and stated that he wanted to hear protests against injustice from Bing. What happened then was surprising, that Hope made an offer to Bing to be able to appear on his channel to protest for 30 minutes and twice a week. The virtual audience again gave Bing encouragement to be able to do and accept Hope's offer. After the offer from Hope, Bing became popular and appeared in advertisements on screens in front of people who were peddling stationary bicycles. Bing conveyed his ideology and opinion regarding the system prevailing in today's society. He conveyed his opinion still by piercing his neck with shards of glass. When the ad broadcast stopped, it appeared that Bing was no longer living in a narrow room surrounded by glass. Currently, he lives in a bigger room, and there are various facilities in it. The room is still full of screens this time, but the screen can show a view as if Bing is in the middle of a beautiful forest. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that it is a picture of humans today who always live in technology and are often blinded by unreal things like what Bing conveys.